And tonight we're talking about The Unbearable Lightness of Being from 1988, directed by Phillip Kaufman. This is a summary from Letterboxd.
Nice.
Thomas is a doctor and a lady killer in 1960s Czechoslovakia, an apolitical man who is struck with love for the bookish country girl, Teresa. His more sophisticated sometime lover, Sabina, eventually accepts their relationship, and the two women form an electric friendship. The three are caught up in the events of the Prague Spring in 1968 until the Soviet tanks crush the nonviolent rebels. Their illusions are shattered, and their lives change forever. That's it. That's the whole movie.
Sure did.
So, Unbearable Lightness of Being is one of those movies that I like. It's got a really standout title.
Yes.
It's like, whoa, that's a cool title. That sounds like a pretentious book. That's got to be really, really good. I remember like Roger Ebert, his 4-star review for it in 1988. It's always kind of been on my radar as a movie. I got to check that out sometime. Oh, it's in the Criterion Collection, but it's also been out of print for a really long time. So it was just like not in the cards for me to watch. So this was a first time view for me. I just want to throw out there, so this is an adaptation of a novel that was written in 1984 by Milan Kundera. And let's just see here. Here's the line from the Wikipedia page under film. In 1988, an American-made film adaptation of the novel was released starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Lena Olin, and Juliette Binoche. In a note to the Czech edition of the book, Kundera remarks that the movie had very little to do with the spirit either of the novel or the characters in it. In the same note, Kundera goes on to say that after his experience, he no longer allows any adaptations of his work. Which I didn't know that watching this movie. So first of all, I'll go through my experience watching the movie. Hey, I forgot that Daniel Day-Lewis was in this movie. That's cool. Daniel Day-Lewis is great. And this is one of he's not in that many movies. Like he's like in a dozen movies or so. He's like super he's like the true method actor. He gets really into his roles. He really disappears into it. So here he plays a guy who looks a lot like Ted Bundy, renowned, like legit lady killer, serial killer. We're sporting that turtleneck and brown jacket. Like the only thing he's not doing is driving around a like powder blue Volkswagen. And instead of like strangling and dumping women in the woods, he's just fucking them. This is supposed to be a charming, lovable character. I don't know if maybe it's like this movie was made in 1988 in more like innocent times where rakish characters like this were okay and acceptable.
Yeah.
But in this, he's kind of like, I don't know if this guy's kind of just a piece of shit, right? And then I noted, there's like a lot of like sexy voyeurism in this movie with like mirrors and like boobs and butts and panties and some very shapely bottoms. These people definitely were doing their aerobics because it was the 80s. They weren't doing that CrossFit stuff yet. There's like the sex pest stuff with Daniel Day-Lewis here as Tomas. He's like, don't worry, I'm a doctor.
Take off your clothes.
That fucking line, I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's like so misguided. Like, what is this movie? And I don't know. Like, this like to me is like, man, 1988. I don't know how this played, but in 2017, I noted that like so on. As I was watching this movie, I had my laptop on, and I was like, oh, let's see what people say about this movie on Letterboxd. And like very few people that I follow have even watched this movie. Like it's not like a super like in the I guess like in the world of film that I follow for this movie, like for how like it's fairly famous. I guess it's like known. Yeah. It's in the Criterion Collection. Not very many people have gone out of their way to watch it. I think due to its like lack of availability. Okay. So I was like, oh yeah, people don't really talk about this movie at all anymore, and I'm starting to see why. The other thing that popped into mind is like scenes of him in his apartment. It was like, oh, it's like Dennis in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and which is also funny because there's always the link back of Dennis being like Ted Bundy with his like his kit that he has in his car with electrical tape and gloves. Next note here is, man, those weird animal sounds Juliette Binoche makes as she's entered, and which I ask, what is this movie?
You know what my note at that scene was?
Is this your one note, RJ?
No, I actually have more than one.
Okay.
Note.
You know what?
But,
go ahead.
My note was just Jesus lady, comma, settle down.
Settle down.
Because I thought it was a little excessive. Because like even before the animal noises, she's like, and she like spider monkey jumps onto him.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't know if I've ever been in that situation. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
I think you're doing it wrong.
I'm doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Continue.
Okay. So that's like the first, I don't know, hour of the movie is just like Tomas's sexcapades.
Yeah.
And then there's like, they start dropping this like political stuff about just like, I don't know, all these characters saying, everything's going to be great. The Russians aren't going to do anything to us. We're the human face of socialism. What's the worst that can happen? Like things like that, like, it's like, oh my God, like this is like pretty artless. This is like pretty heavy handed stuff. Like, isn't there a more subtle way to do these scenes? Next note. So what about Tomas is actually appealing? He just wants to bone bitches and live without the complications. Like, that's kind of his deal. Okay, which I like. I came to figure out later what this character is and the philosophy behind it and the title, because there actually is all that. Because this book is like fairly well regarded as like a classic of, I don't know, Czechoslovakian literature and probably European literature. I don't think it's like really well read or talked about right now. But anyway, I'll get to that too. So yeah, I found that this political stuff in this movie, I mean, this movie is like set, like the crux of this movie is during the Prague Spring, which is when the Russians rolled into Czechoslovakia and just basically seized it. Because at one point it was like, yeah, you guys are cool, you can do whatever you want, but all these dance parties you're having, referencing Western music and blah 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 and free loving and like thinking that you're like not communists, that's not going to fly. So the Russians show up, they shoot some people, they seize power, and then later on in the film you get to see like what it's like to really live in under the thumb of a Soviet Union. It's not a lot of fun. You got lots of a lot of paperwork. It's shitty. I mean, at least that's kind of the story that's told over and over again, but I tend to believe that one. So anyway, the political stuff in this movie I think isn't handled particularly well or tastefully. This movie came out in 1988 as the curtain was about to drop. The Iron Curtain. Hey, RJ, have you ever banged abroad while on a train with an old man just sitting there watching?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on this one.
Okay, fair enough. And that's kind of it for my notes, I'll say at this point. Hey, RJ, what did you think of this movie?
This fucking movie has the fucking balls to be 3 hours long.
The audacity. The book's quite long too, I believe.
Audacity.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you know what? You know what other book is fucking long? Return of the King. And you know what? They whittled that down to 3 hours too.
Yep.
So I don't know what my point was here.
I don't know.
This movie is so fucking long. And you know what this movie also is? So fucking boring. It is so boring. And there's just like, okay, so this is what I think of this movie.
Okay, is this Hamlet? Is this Henry V boring?
Hard to say.
Okay.
I'm going to say hard to say.
Okay, I want to jump in here because I don't think this movie's boring, but I found it very bland. Like, I think that this movie is like it's for the most part it moves along. Like, it moves along. Like, the scenes are like all like there, but there's not like there's like it's just like everything about it. There's no real like bold decision making. Like, I guess like this movie relies on like the erotica, I guess, of certain scenes. Of like, look at this sexy chick in her panties wearing this hat from her grandfather's grandfather. Ain't that hot? And like, look at her like just like pawing over that mirror and like, oh, now there's two women and they're gonna make out. Like, there's like that sort of like I don't know, late 80s like European vibe that's like, yeah, you've never seen this in North America, boys. Like, but it's like, okay, no one cares about that shit anymore because it's 2017. Like, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah, so it's bland.
So this is my point. I think, like what you said, I think a lot of the right pieces are there.
Yep.
It's well put together. It's a competent movie.
Yes.
I don't think it's engaging in any way, because very, very much like what you said is, I don't root for any of these people other than maybe what's her name, Juliette Binoche.
Binoche, I think. Yeah.
Binoche.
Yeah.
She's wicked. I think she's the best part of this movie. I think she's really like endearing. Like I feel like you root for her kind of. Whereas say like Daniel Day-Lewis, I love him, man. He's one of my all-time favorite actors, and I didn't really feel like he did much in this. That's just kind of me.
Now, is he your favorite actor because of like his like 2 movies that he's in?
No, I said he's
really,
one.
I'm just curious, but the reasons though for that though, is it because of like just Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood, kind of? Is that like, would you be like that's why he's like in your top? Because like, have you seen like My Left Foot and The Name of My Father and all that stuff like that?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
No, I like him for those movies too. Like In the Name of the Father.
See, I've never seen those movies.
Was the first. That was the first one I had actually seen with him.
Okay.
There's a turkey scene in a prison, and you'll know what I mean whenever you do watch that scene. That's awesome. I love that. But In the Name of the Father, obviously There Will Be Blood. Gangs of New York, like all that stuff. I've seen him. I think I checked, and I was a little bit surprised. I think I've only seen 7 of his movies, but it's like you said, he's only in really like 15 maybe.
Yeah, it's not.
So
much.
I was like, that's not bad. So I think he's awesome, but I didn't really think he did much. So back to the movie.
Okay.
I think it's a well done movie. It's well put together. Yeah. I just don't think it's, like I said, it's engaging at all, because there are certain things that I think don't really work for it. Like what you said, he's not a likable character. And it's like, yeah, there are movies that don't have likable characters, but, sometimes you root for them. I.e. Breaking Bad, Walter White's not a likable character, but you root for him nonetheless.
He's kind of a dynamic character too. Like that's like comparing like, I mean, that's an action TV show for the most part.
Yeah,
though.
no, I know. I was just saying, like, he's not a likable character either. But so this kind of reminded me. There's this movie with Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie, and So Jason Sudeikis is a big actor now. I don't like him anymore because I feel like he's kind of a piece of shit. Like, he's like Jason Bateman, where he's like a really smart, like smarmy kind of like a fucker. But Jason Bateman is still charming, kind of. That's actually the best example. Jason Bateman is always playing like a really like obnoxious, like unlikable guy, but he's still kind of likable.
Because he's kind of a schmuck. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, there was this movie I watched once with those two, Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie, and they were in a very similar situation where it's like, well, we want to be together, but we want to like fuck other people all the time too.
Hey, what movie is this? Does Alison Brie like kind of like saunter around in like panties and like crawl around in front of a mirror?
Yeah.
What movie is this?
I think it's called Sleeping with Other People or something like that. It came out like a couple of years ago. Yeah, exactly. And so like that movie is very much the same, where it's like, we want to be together, but we can't like stop boning other people. And you're supposed to root for them, but like Jason Sudeikis is like a millionaire, and he's like I just want to have sex with so many people, and you're like, why? It's like, why do you feel bad for this character?
I'm a brilliant brain surgeon who could have stayed in Geneva, but
yeah. Exactly. And so like that's kind of the vibe I got in this, and I don't think it's because of the story, because I like what we've talked about before, like say Red Shoes or Summertime, like romance movies where sometimes it's like not meant to be, and they kind of play off of that stuff. Like those movies I thought were fucking awesome, but this movie, it didn't grab me in any way. Like I was like, it's like I don't care what happens at all to like any of these characters. Like I'm not invested in them. I don't really root for any of them. Like I don't. That's all it is. It's like I don't care. Yeah. And I think the biggest problem is the backdrop of that like the Czech riot stuff, or like with the Soviets. Because I guess if the book was written at that time and it's like different, but the whole time I was watching it, it was like I don't understand why this is like the context for this story. I was like, what is this supposed to be a metaphor?
Okay.
Or like do you know what I mean? I was like, what is this supposed to mean? I was like, I don't see how this affects the characters at all, other than they move out to the country.
Hey RJ, would you like to hear the philosophical underpinnings of the novel that this movie's based on?
if you have it ready.
I sure do.
Okay.
Courtesy of Wikipedia. So when I was reading about this movie, one thing that kept popping up was it's like an existential film, and I was like, what the hell is existential about that movie? Like, I didn't find anything. Like, that stuff usually resonates with me fairly strongly, but this movie, like, I didn't get that at all. It just seemed like this, like, I don't know, like, not libertines, but like kind of like people exploring hedonism in like the 60s, and then it all comes to a shattering halt because of Soviets no fun party coming through. So this is what the actual book is kind of supposed to be about, which I haven't read. Challenging Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of eternal resurgence, that is the idea that the universe and its events have already occurred and will recur ad infinitum, the story's thematic meditations posit the alternative, that each person has only one life to live, and that which occurs in life occurs only once and never again, thus the lightness of being. Moreover, this lightness also signifies freedom. Tomas and Sabina display this lightness, whereas Teresa's character is weighed down. In the Constance Garnett translation of Tolstoy's War and Peace, she gives us the phrase strange lightness of being during the description of Prince Andrei's death. In contrast, the concept of eternal resurgence imposes a heaviness on life and the decisions that are made. To borrow from Nietzsche's metaphor, it gives them weight. Nietzsche believed this heaviness could be either a tremendous burden or great benefit depending on the individual's perspective. The unbearable lightness in the title also refers to the lightness of love and sex, which are themes of the novel. Kundera portrays love as fleeting, haphazard, and possibly based upon endless strings of coincidences, despite holding much significance for humans. I'm not sure if this next part has much to do. I'll read it anyway. In the novel, Nietzsche's concept is attached to the interpretation of the German adage, in translation, one occurrence is not insignificant, or not one occurrence is not significant, namely an all or nothing cognitive distortion that Tomas must overcome in his hero's journey. Okay, this all sounds interesting. And maybe it's far more interesting in the novel where it exists. But I didn't get the sense at all that this movie was engaging with any of those ideas. It didn't come off. It didn't come off that way to me. I don't know if there was like any natural way. Like maybe this is like an inner monologue thing in the novel where characters are thinking about these things and it's more pressing there. But like other than the War and Peace stuff, like I don't know. Was I just like not paying that close of attention? Like was there Nietzsche drops in this that I just like totally like didn't care about? Is there something that like was it me failing as a viewer? I don't think so, because I don't know, like I just didn't think the movie engaged with those ideas, which is a criticism when we get to who hates this movie, which is like, yeah, this is a really lousy adaptation of a novel. With these ideas, because like it's interesting because like in general, like when you were saying that you found like Juliette Binoche's character Teresa the most gravitated toward, it's like, well, because her character is weighed down, whereas like the other two, Tomas and Sabina, they're like living life up and they're like whatever, YOLO, like they're living like exactly
they're chocolate, hey?
Yeah.
Where Julie Binoche is vanilla.
Yeah, so she's kind of a more grounded character that's getting caught up in all this, and so like Tomas is like kind of like, yeah, I want to change her up, I want to break her down, I want to add some chocolate syrup to her and swirl around, you know what I'm saying, son? Yeah. So the director of this movie, Phillip Kaufman, he's the director of such films as The Invasion of the Body Snatchers from the 70s, The Right Stuff, Quills,
also 5 hours,
Quills, a little movie all about that Marquis de Sade you're a big fan of these days, and Rising Sun, starring Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery.
Neat,
amongst some other films. But yeah, so I mean, like he is very much like director, like he's a journeyman director. He's like he's no one's favorite director, I'm pretty sure. Just like I don't know if this is anyone's favorite movie. I doubt it, because I don't know what someone would be like really a big fan of watching this. I don't know.
I hope not, man.
No. What notes do you have, RJ, for us?
My first note is the music is too loud. That's another constant complaint of mine. The music in this movie is so fucking loud. Because they talk so quiet, and I crank up the volume, and then as soon as I crank it up, like this weird fucking polka music cuts in. It's like, and it's so loud.
Okay,
I don't know. Did you get that?
I did not have that experience.
Well, I don't know then. But my version of this movie, and if anyone else watches this, please let us know. The music is so fucking loud. It was just like, it's like, I don't like this. It bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one note I had was pool cheese. And I meant to write pool chess, but I wrote pool cheese. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with it. I think that's pretty neat.
That scene with all those old guys eating the cheese in the pool, and then the girl swims by. Yeah.
That would be a movie.
Heck of a picture.
No, yeah, so like some of the notes I wrote was like the things that I was saying to you that I don't think it really conveys any of the stuff that it's trying to. But some of my notes about the movie itself, why does Stellan Skarsgård live in an apartment with curtains everywhere? I don't understand. Is that a European thing?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Old Stellan Skarsgård. He's Criterion alumni now too. He's like doubles. Yeah.
So why is his apartment covered with curtains everywhere? What the fuck does that mean?
Fuck if I know.
Yeah. I feel like this movie does really dumb artsy things, like when Daniel Day-Lewis takes his shoes off and goes to feed the swans, and you're just like, why is this in this movie? And then there's
looks nice.
This movie's like 3 hours long.
Yes.
And at least an hour of that is stuff that doesn't need to be here, where it's just music playing and like Daniel Day-Lewis is like touching Julia Binoche like in the face. And you're just like, yeah, I get it. You're building on something here, but you don't need this much time for it. Mm-hmm. That's how I thought, at least. Yeah, he's really creepy. He's a pervert, a sexual criminal, if you will. There's
sex
one thing.
Pest. I like my words. I like sex pest. Yeah.
Sex pest. Okay. There's one note I had that's a full-on behind booty scoop, and I wrote 1940. So at 19 minutes and 40 seconds, there is a full-on. He's got his arm all the way underneath and back up, booty scooping.
Oh yeah, booty scooping. Yeah, there's like some like. I don't know. Booty scooping's good. Clam diving, like there's just there's like some real reaches, like deep dives.
Yeah, some raw cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then pretty well. I thought the pig was pretty nice.
Yeah,
I thought that was very cute, and the basket full of puppies was cute until they had to euthanize the one.
Oh, but
it was a nice scene.
Yeah,
like
it was that movie. I think the movie actually might very well have at this point the best representation of people with their pets and their compassion for their pets. Like they actually like really like because hey. Despite Tomas's questionable checkered sexual past, he runs out and gets that goddamn dog. Like he's on that dog. He's like, oh, I gotta get the dog. He's gotta get the dog. He's like, of course you gotta get the dog. It's like not even a question, but he does, and he does. So he's a good guy. And then she takes the dog, and then he goes and finds out, and the dog comes and greets him because the dog's like, oh, my master's here. I'm so happy. And then they get to hang out with some cows, and then he gets sick, and then they just put him down because his life's just gonna get shittier, and that was really nice. But
I agree. You do see the full circle from puppy all the way to the end, and that like you said, I feel like that's something you don't see very often. So I did like that as well.
Yeah, real pet love.
Yeah, real pet love. Yeah, and there was some cows in there, some Criterion cows even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to watch a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis herding cows, just walking them across like an old fucking European road?
That's right.
So at the end, I was a little bit caught off guard. I thought it was going to be a Jules and Jim type of ending.
It kind of was.
It kind of was, but it wasn't as intentional.
No.
So
you just go off into
go
off into the whiteness.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Floating off.
Jules and Jim eventually. What's that? Like 400 episodes.
A long time.
Long time. But no, yeah, like that's what I think we're pretty well on the same page. Like,
yeah,
it seems like a good enough movie. It's just like it's
forgettable
today's standards. It's not that good.
Yeah, time has not been kind. I guess like I don't know if people really love this movie in the get go, or if people have always felt this way, but certain critics are like really into it. I think like Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert, they loved it. They loved it so much. It was transgressive, but now it seems like it's so very quaint. Like I don't know. It seems like it's like the worst kind of bland 80s dramas that were coming out. I don't know. Very like I don't know. I would never watch it again. That's for sure. I'd be like, stay away. 3-hour movie. Oh, hey, like this is off topic, but fuck, yeah. Yesterday I got my Ghost World Criterion Blu-ray in. Fuck, that is a nice package, boy. I was like
Nice
thinking
package.
yeah, nice package.
Oh,
Yeah,
baby.
I would. That's a movie I'd watch any day of the week, like any time. I'll watch it.
Nice.
It's good to go. And that was. It's
Well,
like
we'll get there in 10 years.
Oh my god, yeah,
When we cover
it just came out, so it's a long wait. I don't know. Yeah, the dog was good. I don't know. I have nothing. I don't really have any more.
There's not a ton to say, to be honest.
It's all honestly, it's just complaints, which is like.
Yeah.
It gets kind of boring. I have no new thoughts to add to this movie. It just seems to fail in a lot of ways. Your parents might like this movie and might be like, "Oh, well, this is a bit hot," and I don't know, because it's like pretty inoffensive. It's like everything's like surface level. They took out all that like philosophical shit that I don't think would have played well with the cheap seats. Which I'm sure, like, the cheap seats were filled up for this movie.
Yeah,
at the old Creepsville Square Plaza Theater.
Oh God, yeah. I bet my parents would have liked this in '88, but now if they watched it, they would have been like, "Fuck, what a boring fucking movie."
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much.
There's not enough abs. You only see Daniel Day-Lewis shirtless for like a second.
Yeah. But hey, those butts, RJ, those are some mighty fine butts. They're not long butts either. They're like legit, they're like nice, calmly round butts. The way that those butts have aged well.
Those butts have aged well. I endorse this statement. Those butts have aged well.
It's kind of going back to your comment about how the Wonder Woman movie has only a few holes in it.
Well, I don't know, man. Like,
anyway, hey RJ, who hates this movie?
Probably a few people.
Well, yeah, it's been a while since we had like half stars being tossed around.
Yeah,
Lance rewatched this movie, gave it a half star. Fade to white. Ugh. This movie sucks, and I just realized that I've always hated Juliette Binoche and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I mean,
Who hates Daniel Day-Lewis?
Lance does. Lance. Gavin Mivius. He gave this movie 1 star. And he says, a friend of mine bought me this book when I first moved to New York City. It's beautiful. This movie is not the book, not by any means. In fact, this movie is a boring, generic drama, and I was oh so disappointed in it. The film drops all the subtlety and all the existentialism. It just becomes a list of the events that occur and nothing more. This film commits one of the worst crimes imaginable. It's just so ordinary.
Wow.
Mic drop.
Take that, fuckers.
Keyboard drop. Yeah. And yeah, there's a few other people that just said, not that great. I don't know. It's not a bad movie. It's just blandy Magoo.
There's just not much going on, man.
No. Sorry, Criterion. I'm glad this movie's out of print, I guess.
Me too.
Yep. It's fine. It can stay that way.
Yep.
Any last thoughts about butts and
butts and dumps
and then butt clutches? What was that?
The booty scoop.
Booty scoop. Yeah.
The booty scoop. I have lots of thoughts on butts and dumps, but I think we're near the end of the program here, and unless you got several hours, I don't think I can get into it.
All right. After the break, RJ and I will drive off into whiteness down a country road because we're dead.